雨が降ってるから歩くとき気をつけてスリップしないように。
寒いよ。
雨降ってるからしょうがないこれは。ちょっとヒーター入れようか。68。
We work, we earn, we save. Is that all there is? The book of Ecclesiastes gives us an entirely new perspective on money that impacts our day-to-day lives. Faith by Study, Wisdom Over Wealth, unpacks life-changing biblical truths about wealth, work, and contentment. This resource will help you grow in how you handle wealth by deepening your trust in God. Request your copy of the Wisdom Over Wealth study with your gift of $35 or more by going to faithfi.com/give.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We believe true morality flows from biblical principles and directs people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
Feeling burdened by credit card debt? As faithful stewards, we are called to manage our finances well. Christian credit counselors can help with a debt management program that allows you to pay off debt up to 80% faster, while honoring your commitments with integrity. Don't let debt hold you back from the life God has planned for you. Take the first step toward peace and financial freedom today. Visit ChristianCreditCounselors.org. That's ChristianCreditCounselors.org.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here at American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. We've got nearly all the lines full, but I've got one available, 800-525-7000. If you have a financial question, give us a call right now. Let's go to Illinois. Sally has been waiting patiently. Go right ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Sally.
My name is Sam. Hi. I have a question, and I've heard this from a couple of people, and I don't know if it's true or not. I worked for, well, my husband and I will be married 65 years, 63 years in July. And he worked for the DOD and received a pension, and I worked for Social Security for like 35 years. And people have told me that if he were to die before me, he set me up to get 40% of his pension, but I would lose my Social Security or the pension, whichever is lower. And I was wondering if that's...
Yeah, it's always a good idea to check with Social Security just on your specifics. Normally the way this would work is you would get to keep one Social Security benefit, the higher of the two. So if your husband passes, you could switch to his survivor's benefit, although perhaps if he's with the DOD, he doesn't have Social Security through that government pension offset, even though there has been changes in that, and that's going away. But the bottom line is that 40% pension from the DOD that you're set to receive is separate, and you will still receive it. You just need to, check with Social Security with regard to that government pension offset, but that shouldn't, one should not affect the other. You should be able to keep both the 40% pension and your Social Security.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I've had different people tell me that I'm going to lose one of them, and I thought, well, that's really not fair, but anyway, I thought that's the way it works, and that's why I wanted to call you and find out.
Yeah, so I think just given, there's been some recent changes with regard to the government pension offset, if that's what, is affecting him not receiving Social Security, having that DOD job. So I would call into Social Security, perhaps even schedule an in-person meeting to visit with them and use your specific record so that they can tell you exactly what you will receive at what age and so forth when he passes. But typically the way it would work is you would not lose that. You can't receive, two benefits, but you could continue receiving your benefit, and then you would get that 40% DOD pension separately and not have that affected by Social Security. So hopefully that helps, Sally. We appreciate your call today. Thank you both for your service to our nation, and we would love to have you back on the program anytime. God bless you. Let's go to New Mexico. Hi, Pam. How can I help?
Hi, I was calling to ask a few questions about my husband's. Are you still there? I'm sorry.
I sure am. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. My husband is getting ready to he got a letter recently asking if he wanted to go ahead and take his retirement early at the age of 60, which is at the end of this month. And they want to, know if we want, the monthly payments or defer it or to take the lump sum. And I was curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it's a question that comes up a lot. And, the lump sum gives you the flexibility and control, but puts the investment risk on you. The monthly payments offer guarantee income, but less flexibility. And deferring obviously increases the monthly payout, but you give up the income now. And so I think as you compare these options, including taxes and survivor's benefits and whether or not you need the income now or later, usually it becomes pretty obvious which one you need. If you really have the flexibility to choose both, I think it's ultimately going to come down to if you're willing to take on the investment risk, there's something nice about having that lump sum where you're in control. You could have access to larger amounts of money down the road if you needed them at any point, but you also could, invest it and convert it to an income stream, but you are bearing that investment risk. There is also a process you might want to go through to just look at, whether the present value of that lump sum is, more advantageous than the future value of that income stream. And so, what I would probably do is connect with a Kingdom advisor who could actually run some of those calculations where they'd look at the present value, what the future income is worth today, based on the monthly payment amount, and then they apply a discount rate to it, and then and they make an assumption around the number of years, which we have to just use life expectancy on that, and then you can compare that lump sum offer to the monthly income stream to determine the better value of the actual offer, and so that becomes then one factor that you could look at. And then, I think secondly, you would look at just what is my need for money now or in the next couple of years. And then thirdly, you'd consider your health and longevity. But it does get somewhat complicated, and I think that's why it's always best to make these decisions, even if you have to spend a little bit of money, to hire an advisor to help you kind of look at your situation and your financial plan, look at the offers of what are being offered to you in terms of a lump sum now or a few years down the road, the monthly payment, and then help you kind of back into the best decision for you, because there's not a right or wrong decision here, if that makes sense.
All right. Yeah. Okay. And do you have, is it the website for the Kingdom Advisor?
Yes, ma'am. You would just go to faithfi.com. That's faithfi.com. And right there at the top of the page, it'll say Find a Professional. And you could look for some certified Kingdom Advisors there in New Mexico. And what you'd want to do is just say that you listen to the program and you're not necessarily looking for investment management. You're really just looking for somebody who you could pay by the hour to help you do some planning specifically around making this decision on the payout for this retirement account.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right, very good. Absolutely, Pam. Thanks for being on the program today. We appreciate your call. 800-525-7000 is the number to call. Again, that's 800-525-7000. Don is waiting patiently in Mississippi. Don, we're going to get to you right after this next break. I don't want to cut you short. I know you have questions about getting equity out of your home. We'll come to you first. We do have a few lines open here in our final segment. After the break, if you have a financial question, we'd love to tackle it. So now's the time to call. Again, that number, 800-525-7000. Hey, let me take just a moment here before we take this next break and invite you to become a Faith Fi partner. This is a really important time for us here at Faith Fi as we help God's people live as faithful toward the end of our fiscal year. That's right, we don't operate on a calendar year. Our year here at Faith Fi ends June the 30th. So as you might imagine, this is a really important time for us to hear from those who want to support the ministry. It's a huge encouragement to us because your support allows us to reach more people and produce more resources, also bring you this broadcast each day. So if this show's been a blessing to you, we'd invite you to become a Faith Fi partner. Partners support us at $35 a month or more, or $400 a year or more. You can become a partner at faithfi.com. Just click Give. As a gift to you, when you become a partner, we'll send you 4 issues of Faithful Steward, our magazine each year, plus all of our studies and devotionals, and pro access to the Faith Fi app. Just go to faithfi.com. We'll be right back.
Faith and Finance is underwritten by certified Kingdom advisor Kevin Bruce with Align Investment Research, helping families across Collin County honor God by stewarding wealth with wisdom and purpose, because true peace of mind comes from aligning wealth with God's design. Learn more at align7.com or call 972-972-8465. 972-972-8465. Align is a registered investment advisor.
Many times I would have taken you under my wings. They had everything that was necessary for them to know Jesus and follow him, and they went their way.
I think for nations, for individuals, there is a day that you have to make the decision to respond to the Lord, and it might be that the door of opportunity after that shuts.
Exploring the Word, weekdays 3 p.m. Central on AFR. We're grateful for support from Guidestone, whose diversified suite of investment solutions align with Christian values to create positive change in the world. More information at guidestonefunds.com/faith. Investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal. Carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of Guidestone Funds before investing. They're distributed by Foresight Funds Distributors, LLC, which is not an advisory affiliate, a registered investment advisor, nor do they provide investment advice.
Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Today, put your heart into something that makes an eternal impact. Heart for Lebanon is sharing the gospel and protecting girls from early marriage, child labor, and violence. Your gift of $114 helps reach 3 at-risk girls with hope and a brighter future. Give generously. Text FAITH to 98656. That's FAITH to 98656. Or visit faithfi.com/Lebanon.
You're joining us today for Faith and Finance. You know, everything we do here at American Family Radio is about equipping God's people to live out a biblical worldview, to share the gospel of Jesus Christ without reservation whatsoever. And then once we commit our lives to Christ, to living out of a biblical worldview. And that includes every domain of our lives as we parent our kids and in our marriage and in our walk with Jesus and as we engage the culture and as we serve in our churches. But it also includes our financial journey. You know, my experience is one of the key ways God shapes your spiritual journey is through your financial journey. It's one of those tangible expressions of what we value, where we place our trust, how you use this good gift of money as a tool on purpose to give God glory and accomplish his purposes. Boy, it's a really big deal. And we live in the most prosperous nation in the history of the world. And so it can rival our hearts. There's a lot of allure out there in the things of this world. If we're not careful, we can have a temporal mindset rather than an eternal perspective. And the Word of God can be choked out in our lives. We see that in the parable of the sower. Remember what choked out the third soil from bearing fruit, that 30, 60, 100-fold return? It was, among other things, the deceitfulness of wealth or riches. We don't want that to be true about us. And so each day on this program, we help you renew your minds, understand God's heart, and help you with practical advice on how you manage God's money well. Let's do that right now. Here in our final segment, we'll get to as many calls as we can. 800-525-7000. Don's been waiting patiently in Mississippi. Don, go right ahead, sir.
Hey, Rob, how are you this morning, man?
I'm doing great.
I listened faithfully to you. I truly appreciate your advice. And I go right into it. I'm retired military. Unfortunately, at a young age, I did not think about what God had for me until I got saved, and I thank God for salvation because He gives us new thoughts, new ideas, and new understanding about things. Yes. So now I am doing some things, trying to save some money. Didn't do as well as I thought it would be, but, God is still opening up doors, and He's still providing. So what I have is I'm buying a house through a company called, well, I won't mention the name, but I'm constantly paying my mortgage, and I pay more than is due every month. And so I can see my mortgage payment each month, each quarter coming down. So, but I get these flyers that come in and say, you can draw X amount of dollars out for equity, and I'm considering that to help pay some bills off, if that is a good idea. But I don't want to lose what I have as far as the APR goes, because I'm still at 2%, and I know the market is way above that now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Don, thank you for your service to our nation, my friend. We're grateful and appreciate your call today. Listen, all of us are on a journey in our financial lives, and there's plenty of things we all wish we could have done differently, but I think the key right now is you're trying to do everything you can to be a faithful steward of what passes through your hands. I love that you've been accelerating the payoff on this house. That's great. And now as you look at this asset, you're wondering how you might be able to tap into that to pay some bills. I would encourage you to guard against that. I mean, the first thing I would do, and I agree with you, we don't want to touch this mortgage. I mean, if you got a mortgage with a 2 handle on it, that's a good thing. There's a lot of people out there who've had to buy houses in the last few years because they didn't have a choice, and they're in 6s and 7s, and even though that's pretty, much closer to the long-term average, we got pretty accustomed over the last 20 years to 3% interest rates or thereabouts. So that's a great thing. Enjoy that, and don't touch that. The first thing I would probably do is pull back on sending extra, and let's try to build up an emergency fund. Let's go back to work on that spending plan and really dial in your expenses, and look for areas to cut back, including perhaps as a first step, just making the scheduled monthly payment on that mortgage instead of sending extra, which normally I would love, but I'd rather do that than you tap into that home equity, to pay some bills. I mean, unless you're doing a home renovation or something where you're going to improve the value of the home, I'd rather you not have a loan that's secured to your house, which puts your house at risk if for some reason you couldn't make the payment. Secondly, those home equity loans, even though you will find some banks periodically that offer some incentives, there is a cost to putting that loan in place. And with the prevailing rates today and what would likely be either a higher fixed rate or a variable rate, you're going to have a rate probably 2 to 3 times, 3 times probably for sure what you have on your first mortgage. So I would try to avoid that. I mean, if it came down to it and you really, as you get into retirement, you find that you're sitting on this major asset of your home and you paid it down significantly and you just can't make the budget balance because you don't have enough in the way of retirement assets, I would be open to you looking at a reverse mortgage at some point where you could either have access to a line of credit where you'd never have to make a payment, or you could get an income stream. There's a lot of folks that want to get out of debt once and for all and stay there, and I love that idea. But other folks who just haven't saved enough, who are sitting on their largest asset being their home, and because they've carried a mortgage with them into retirement, or even if they paid it off and they just don't have enough to make ends meet and kind of enjoy this fourth quarter of life, that's where the new version of a reverse mortgage, which is called a home equity conversion mortgage, where you can never owe more than the house is worth. You can stay in it, you and or your spouse, for the rest of your life, and whatever equity is left, at death or when you sell it, is available to go to heirs, but you never have a payment. That can be a game changer for some folks. So as a planning tool, I don't mind that at all. But I think kind of based on what you're describing right now, I would avoid taking out a new loan, and let's just go to work on that spending plan and perhaps pull back on extra principal reduction just to free up some additional funds. Does that make sense, though?
And yes, sir, it makes a lot of sense. And the other thing is that, I've been doing what you said about emergency funds. Right now, I'm able to put at least $200 a month into my emergency fund, which is now actually have gotten up to about 10 grand. So I'm constantly trying to build that up while I can.
Yeah, that's great. How much extra are you sending per month or per year to the house?
I only do maybe $100 extra.
Okay, yeah. So maybe just while you're building that up to 6 months expenses, in the emergency fund, maybe we wait on that, just because it'd be important that you have that liquid cash, which the home is illiquid, that you have that liquid cash, right, just if something comes out of left field. And then what are the bills you're talking about? Is it just monthly spending, or is there some kind of one-time event that you're looking to fund?
Thank you.
Amount and the options if you haven't already. In some cases, they may reduce or waive part of it, especially if you as the heir keeps the home and your income qualifies, but you're going to need to talk that through with them just to see what options you have.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know there's this can be confusing, and so you really it's ultimately going to come down to what the loan servicer says and can do for you. So I would get on the phone with them. They'll tell you exactly what's possible. But I would ask for this, ability to find out what would it take for you to qualify for a portion of it to be waived or reduced. And let's see if, they can give you some advice on that. Hey, all the best to you, Diana. I'm so sorry to hear about your mom's passing. We appreciate your call today. God bless you. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us today. So thankful to have you along with us today. Listen, if you find value in the program, want to support our work, just head to faithfi.com and click Give. We have some incredible things coming up over the balance of this year. A new devotional that I can't wait to put in your hands. It'll be out in the fall. We're working on our digital studies, so in the Faith By app, we're going to be able to make some of our studies and devotionals available to you in a digital experience. We've got new short form content coming your way that's going to be video based, working on a lot of great things all around this idea of how do we as Christ followers who are growing in our faith, how do we not make money our treasure, but God our ultimate treasure, and then how do we steward wisely what he has entrusted to us. And that's our passion here. I say thanks to my team today. I certainly couldn't do this without the amazing folks here at Faith By, including Devin Patrick, my producer, Sandy Dickinson, the call screener today, and Mr. Jim Henry, who serves me incredibly well with research. Thanks for being along with us today. To you as well. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
Speak. What would he say? The Bible subjects itself to historical verification.
He says, we saw this. We go to the Bible wanting to hear what the living God has to say to us.
When God speaks, what does he say?
The God who speaks. Visit stream.afa.net. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The curfew is in place after riots continued for a fifth day in Los Angeles Tuesday. Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman says while he supports the right to protest,
that's chaos. We need ICE. We need ICE. We need a secure border. It's like that's the thing. It's like that's a mistake for our party to pretend that we can need to abolish ICE.
Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy says California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom should be grateful for President Donald Trump.
Governor Newsom don't go more snakes here than he can keep. He's got a city that is a large part out of control. Thank God that the president and the federal government sent it through.
But Democrats like Maxine Waters are saying, don't believe what you see with your own eyes.
Nobody was shot, nobody was killed. Get it in your head. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence.
Fox News contributor Joe Concha says Democrats want you to believe that this is the new normal.
So Democrats want us to believe that watching law enforcement being pelted by concrete, rocks, projectiles, fireworks, they want to say, all right, that's an acceptable level of violence. All of those businesses being ransacked and looted, ICE officers and their families being doxxed, that's apparently okay. That's the new normal. So it appears that everybody from Maxine Waters to Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, Hillary Clinton, almost every Democrat not named John Fetterman, they want looting and rioting and lighting scores of cars on fire to be that acceptable new normal.
Kyle Scheidler with the Center for Security Policy says these riots are being funded by left-wing groups with lots of money.
The equipment doesn't cost that much, and it's usually crowdsourced. What is expensive is legal aid, travel, hotel stays. These are things that are typically, that's where the money comes from the larger progressive foundations and begins to filter down into these community organizations.
The Southern Baptist Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission hosted a roundtable at the SBC annual meeting in Dallas that featured Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, who told pastors that they ought to take it easy on politics in the pulpit. Steve Jordahl reports.
Senator James Lankford told the ERLC panel of the time he chided a pastor who said no Democrat would feel comfortable in his church. The pastor should preach with them in mind, he inferred. He said, quote, the church is getting drawn into the Fox News anger culture. AFA Vice President Ed Vitagliano disagrees.
So when Senator Lankford suggests that pastors should not preach or teach on issues that are quote unquote political, this doesn't make any sense from a biblical perspective.
He says the so-called separation of church and state wasn't an issue when the Bible was being written.
Back when the New Testament was written, there was no such thing as a nation where religion and politics were separate. all cultures were religiously oriented.
Battagliano says the law itself is a moral guide, which opens the pulpit up to address practically any issue.
Any law that is written has a spiritual or religious component to it, because you're telling people what they should or should not do.
He says following Lankford's logic, a pastor would have to avoid preaching against abortion or homosexuality. No Democrat is going to be comfortable with those sermons, nor should they be.
These are moral issues, and thus they are religious or spiritual in nature.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
And finally, Alabama used nitrogen gas to execute a convicted killer last night, marking the 6th time the gas has been used in the U.S.
Alabama executed 6